You ain't no longer in America. Hello zusammen, welcome back to my channel. I hope that you guys are all having an awesome day so far. So for today, I'm going to be talking about things that Americans say that I don't really hear Germans talk about or bring up. If you guys want to add to the list, definitely feel free to leave it in the comments below. And of course, if you are new here, welcome. If you like what you see, please don't forget to hit subscribe. I do post new videos every single week, and it would be awesome to see you guys around here next week. But let's go ahead and get started with the video for today. So for today, like I said, I'm going to be talking about things that I've heard Americans say, or people from North America, Canada, and the US say that Germans don't really talk about. And I used to talk about things like this all the time in conversation, but ever since moving here, I find it super weird when I get these type of questions or when they say some of these things, so I wanted to bring it up. One of the first things is Americans love to make movie references. If they are in a situation and they can make a reference to a specific scene in a movie or a scenario in the movie, they will definitely bring it up. And to me, it's really funny to overhear these conversations. Obviously, Germans watch American movies, Hollywood movies, but you know, they may not be familiar with that exact movie. Maybe the title is different in German, or they don't necessarily pick up on the references right away. So when an American tries to bring this up, it's sort of like this awkward silence. They're like, no, haven't heard of that before. And then the person tries to explain it, and by then it's just like you've gone way too deep, nothing's making sense, and now it's just awkward. Another thing that Americans tend to do is if they're introducing themselves, they will usually mention their name, mention what state they're from, and also they will mention what football team they love. American football is a huge thing over there, obviously, and people really build a connection with their football team. So when they move over here, then, you know, that's still part of them. So when they introduce themselves to Germans or to expats, they will usually mention football in some way or say what football team is their favorite. And obviously Germans don't do this because they don't watch football. You ain't no longer in America. We don't care what your favorite football team is. We don't watch American football. And yeah, I know you're trying to connect in some way, but it's not resonating at all. And then another thing that actually really tripped me out recently was I was talking to somebody from the US, and I've done this in the past before, especially when I lived in Canada, but we were talking about our life, you know, what we've done so far, where we've lived, blah, blah, blah. And the question that they asked me was what my parents do for a living. And I don't know why this tripped me out, but I haven't heard this question asked in so long. Like, people here don't really ask you what your parents do, nothing like that, especially if you're just talking about yourself. The immediate family or extended family, especially career-wise, it doesn't really come into the picture. I mean, I answered the question, but I thought it was really weird. And I used to ask this question a lot as well when I lived back home. And I think it's because everything there is about status and, you know, your career and how you grew up and your influence, like your parents' influence, and, you know, they try to figure out like how you ended up where you ended up. And I just thought it was super, super strange. Let me know if you guys think this is weird. I mean, we were talking about my life and that person's life, but the family thing never really came into play. So maybe it was just a one-off, but I do remember asking this type of question quite a lot as well. And then lastly, one of the things that Americans bring up that Germans don't really talk about is where they went to school. So what specific college they went to. I tend to hear this quite a bit, maybe not in the initial introduction, but somehow in the conversation, the school gets plugged. And I think, again, this has to do with having that strong bond with your college, maybe because, you know, you have a bunch of debt from going to school in the US, but they always seem to mention it. I think it's quite similar to having that affiliation with a football team. But again, I never hear this. It's not really relevant in conversations that I have here, at least with Germans or even other expats. It doesn't really come up. So I always think it's quite interesting how Americans always tend to plug the university. Canadians don't really tend to bring this up, so it is definitely something that is more unique to Americans. But that is pretty much it for today's video, guys. I hope that you enjoyed it. Again, if you want to add some more to the list of things that you notice Americans say or do that Germans don't do, please let me know down below. I always love to read your comments. And that will be all for today. Again, if you haven't already, please don't forget to subscribe, and I will talk to you all in my next one. Have an awesome day. Tschüss!